Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Servants. It's getting colder outside, so in honor of that, I want to cover a few cold characters with only a little bit available on them. These characters are the Dragon Slayer, who is a cat girl, solely because of their name, Dobrynya Nikitich, the Dragon Slayer, the dog that's a bear, Sitonai, and the messengers of the gods and harvesters of heroic souls, the Valkyrie. Design-wise, for me, all of these characters are a knockout. I have a soft spot for snow and ice-like heroes and environments, so this is going to be a pretty comfy one for me to make. So, whether you're listening to this in the frigid winter or during the heat of June, let's enjoy these frosty lasses. Let's start with Dobrynya. This is the only one of these that is a gender bend, but the reason given, I would say, is actually fairly solid. I will address this at the end of her section, and give you my 2 cents into it. As this is a gender bend, feel free to make fun of me if I call the real Dobrynya she when talking about his history. Dobrynya Nikitich is based on a real-life warlord who served under Sviatoslav the Great as a general and a tutor to his son Vladimir the Great, around the mid to late 900s. Here is the issue. His life is surrounded by mystery, so I will go through some of the speculations surrounding him and attempt to keep to the facts when speaking definitively. For one, his sister Malusha was the daughter of Vladimir the Great. This would tie him directly to the royal family by proxy. We also know that he started a dynasty in Novgorod that his heirs continued after his passing. Based on one chronicle, the rise of Vladimir the Great was due to Dobrynya's influence. Vladimir was an illegitimate son to Sviatoslav, but Dobrynya managed to convince him to allow Vladimir to govern over Novgorod. Next, once Dobrynya had trained Vladimir to be a fine warrior and leader, he and Vladimir took over Kiev from Yaropolk, Vladimir's brother. This was a successful takeover and resulted in the capture of both Yaropolk and his wife. Yaropolk's wife, for some reason, thought that offending her captors was a good idea, calling Dobrynya's sister a bondwoman, which is an antiquated term for a slave. In response, Dobrynya had Vladimir rape her. After Vladimir took the throne, Dobrynya returned to Novgorod to rule in Vladimir's place. Here's where we reach the speculative part. He would lead nearly 1,000 campaigns against the Volga Bulgarians. While here, he would force the residents into Christianity as well. While this conversion was successful, it did not sit well with many of the traditional pagan groups who supposedly went to Dobrynya's house and burned it down, killing his wife and many of his family members. That is the historical Dobrynya. The mythological Dobrynya had several legends associated with him. His most famous is his twice slaying of the three-headed dragon Zmei-Gornich. This tale has several adaptations and even an animated movie behind it. This rendition of the legend is the one summarized from the ever-useful Wikipedia, which has the summarized version collected by A.F. Gilferding. It goes as follows. The Bylinia starts with Dobrynya's mother telling Dobrynya to avoid the Saracen mountains, not to trample on baby dragons, not to rescue Russian captives, and not to bathe in the Puchai River. Dobrynya disobeyed his mother and did all 4 things. When he bathed in the Puchai River, he encountered a dragon with 12 trunks, in some variants identified as the Zmei-Gornich, but for the sake of this, we will be referring to it as such. Unarmed and desperate, Dobrynya discovered a hat of the Greek land and used it to defeat the dragon. The dragon, apparently female, pleaded with Dobrynya not to kill her, and the two made a non-aggression pact. The dragon broke the promise immediately and flew off to Kiev, abducting Zabava Putyashna, the niece of Prince Vladimir. When Dobrynya arrived at Kiev, Prince Vladimir commanded him to rescue his niece on pain of death. Dobrynya complained to his mother that he had neither the steed nor spear for the task, and is given the heirloom horse Burko and a magic Shemikon whip of braided silk. He carried a spear too, as is revealed later. Dobrynya rescued some captives and trampled on the dragon's pups, but one of them bit the horse's leg and immobilized it. Dobrynya remembered the magic whip, whose lashes restored the vigor in the horse, and he was freed. The dragon emerged, angry for the death of her pups, and refused to surrender Zabava without a fight. Dobrynya fought the dragon at the Saracen Mountains for 3 days. On the 3rd day, he wanted to give up and leave, but a voice from heaven told him to fight for 3 more hours. Dobrynya eventually killed the dragon in 3 hours. The dragon's blood did not seep into the ground, and Dobrynya wallowed in the pool for 3 days. A voice from heaven eventually told him to stick his spear in the ground and say an incantation. The blood was then swallowed by the earth and Zabava was rescued. Since Dobrynya was a peasant, he could not marry Zabava and gave her to Alyosha Popovich. Dobrynya encountered a Polyanitsa, Natasha, and married her instead. And that is the end of that part of the legend. Now, Natasha is an interesting character in this legend, as there are many legends associated with her as well, supposedly. However, in my own research, I'm coming up with nearly nothing, including when I use the source that FGO claims to be using. I found some secondhand articles with no sources given, so take this next bit with a grain of salt. If you have more information, please let me know in the comments. Supposedly, between the first and second account with Zmei-Gornich, he was approached by the daughter of a giantess. This woman was named Natasha, and she did battle with the young warrior. They fought for several days, but Dobrynya was defeated. As such, Natasha took him as her husband. This very nicely leads us into why Dobrynya is a gender bend. Per her 4th bond line description, the Chaldea staff have 3 theories as to why she appears as a female. 1. Dobrynya's story is a case of misidentification, in the same vein as Artoria. 2. She was historically a male, but upon taking Zmei Gordenich as his noble phantasm, the demonic beast corrupted his saint graph and changed his gender to match the dragon's, female. 3. We actually summoned Natasha, not Dobrynya. Feeling concerned that her young husband may be too popular with the women of Chaldea, she swapped places with him. I saw somewhere that this one was somewhat confirmed, but I've seen nothing officially acknowledging this. For my money, I'd say the last one is still the most likely for a handful of reasons. 1. Natasha is stronger than Dobrynya. 2. We have seen it occur in the past with Orion and Artemis, and in a minute form with Eric Bloodaxe, that servants with strong relationships can manifest their partners, or muscle their way in. Mind you, in those cases, they tend to follow along. 3 is that they are suspicious. A good part of the bond lines involve us trying to decipher why she is a female, and she is constantly coy about it, and not in a convincing way either. It is worth noting that she also appears to have motherly instincts, as is revealed in Tunguska. I know a lot of people were upset with her being a gender bend, but if she is in reality Natasha, I see it as incredibly forgivable. Plus, she got a great design. From Rus to Hokkaido, or as it was known at the time, Ezo, we next see Sitonai. If you are interested in the nitty-gritty details of her spirit origin, and why she is fused with Illya, Freya, and Lohi, I recommend checking out my High Servant video. For this video, I will be focusing exclusively on Sitonai and her legend. Sitonai comes to us from the Ainu myth. The Ainu were the indigenous people of Ezo, which included Hokkaido, the northern part of Honshu, and various other islands in the Northern Sea. According to official estimates, there are currently 25,000 Ainu left, but unofficial estimates claim that there are nearly 200,000. There has been an effort over the last century to attempt to preserve much of their ancient culture, but due to forced assimilation over time, a good deal of it has been lost. However, the tale of Sitonai is one that still remains. The tale goes as follows. A massive snake had taken residence in the Akaiwa mountain, and began demanding human sacrifices, specifically maidens. These offerings were to be made on the 15th day of the 8th month of the year. Too afraid to act against its will, for 9 years the village offered up children to the beast. On the 10th year, the youngest daughter of the village chief volunteered to be the sacrifice. She was only around 12 or 13 at the time. She takes her loyal dog with her and a makiri knife. They hunt down a bear and a deer and leave it in front of the snake's den as a trap, while she and her dog lay in wait. In the light of the full moon, they watch the snake swallow the meat and slowly begin to digest it. Sitonai orders her dog to attack the snake, and it goes for its neck. With its mouth full, it is unable to fight back. Sitonai then lands a perfect strike on its head, finishing off the beast. She then collects the bones of the former sacrifices and laments at their weakness for not being able to kill a mere snake. She then returns to the village with the bones of the deceased girls. She is referred to as a dragon slayer because snakes of inordinate size are often compared to dragons in Japanese myth. However, this is all that we have on Sitonai. It is worth noting the similarities between the story of Sitonai and Susanoo's slaying of the Orochi. The main difference being that Susanoo is a god traveling and finding this trouble, and Sitonai was literally a child from the affected village. She and Illya pair well together given that they were both young girls who were facing impossible odds. Finally, from Japan to Scandinavia, we have the Valkyries. The Valkyrie are warrior maidens in the service of the Norse gods. They serve many purposes and appear in a lot of different myths. For the sake of this video, we will be covering the general concept of the Valkyrie and the ones that appear as the combined servant, referred to simply as Valkyrie. So, Brynhildr fans, you still gotta wait for the Volsunga Saga video. So what exactly are Valkyries? They are something similar to the messengers of the gods. They are female warriors with wings. They are most well known for scouring battlefields for the souls of the brave warriors. Half of these soldiers go to Folkvanger, which is Freya's afterlife, and the other half go to Valhalla, Odin's afterlife. In fact, the name Valkyrie loosely translates to chooser of the slain. Here, they prepare for Ragnarok each and every day, and when they are not readying for war, they are drinking together as the Valkyries attend to them. Truly a heaven for warriors. In Fate, we have 3 Valkyries, Ortlind, Thrud, and Hilda. Hilda appears in 4 different heroic prose, the Voluspa, the Grimsal, the Dranjalob, and the Nafamfler. I butchered all of those, forgive me. Thrud appears in the heroic prose of the Grimminsal, the Nafapler. Her name means strength. Ortlind appears outside of the Norse myth, but we'll get into that here in a bit. Let's start with Hilda. She is a minor character in the prose of Edda, appearing as the daughter of Hogni. She is said to be able to resurrect the dead on the battlefield. Now, there is an issue with her. Her name literally means battle. So, a lot of guesswork when analyzing these poems is needed. Are they referring to the Valkyrie, or are they claiming that she is quite literally a spirit of battle? It's difficult to say. Of the 3 Chaldean Valkyries, she is described as the most human-like. Thrud, on the other hand, has a high-class parent. She is the daughter of Thor, and her name means strength. She is one of the Valkyries that serves the Einjar in Valhalla. Thor is occasionally known as the father of Thrud, and there is a minor legend painted on a shield that may reference Thrud being kidnapped by giants. Of the Chaldean Valkyrie, she is the most reserved, attempting to reject her change into being closer to humans. Finally, we have Ortland. From my own research, I cannot find any mythological references to Ortland. However, she does appear in an opera based on the Volsunga saga written by Richard Wagner called Die Valkyr, or The Valkyrie. She is just known as the daughter of Wotan, or Odin. She is the most emotionally bare of the Chaldean Valkyries, but appears to show an interest in learning about humans. Fun fact, apparently the Chaldean Valkyrie all have taken up dating simulators as a hobby to better understand what it means to love. Hildur is the most interested, then Ortland, then Thrud, but all do so in a desire to understand their sister Brynhild. It should be mentioned that the Chaldean Valkyrie all share a hive mind. In a sense, they are robotic, programmed to do the task that their superior, Odin in myth, or Skadi in the Lost Belts, requires of them. It should also be noted that it is implied that the Valkyries can see the value of a soul, which goes in line with their myth. However, this appears more with Brynhild, and we will briefly explain what the Brynhild's beloved means when we cover her. But that is it! Thank you all so much for watching, I really do appreciate it. If there is a servant that you would like me to cover, let me know in the comments, leave a like as it really does help out the channel, subscribe to catch these as they come up, follow my Twitch for significantly less structured content, I also have a Twitter, but for now, keep your chin up, peace.